Hi everyone, my name is Lupita Guerrero and I'm a multidisciplinary Canadian artist and recent graduate from the University of Waterloo. I studied fine arts in my undergrad, which gave me the opportunity to grow my practice, though my minor in sociology also encouraged me to explore some lifelong interests I've had about social justice and politics. In terms of my body of work, I'm largely inspired by my Nicaraguan background as a means to navigate personal family narratives and reflect on what stories I want to tell. I aim to conceptualize the ways in which the immigrant experience can have a generational impact among families, particularly between myself and my parents. I find it to be my own way of dissecting identity and acknowledging my privilege as a Canadian citizen. I ultimately find a lot of my inspiration from family moments and memories, so I naturally gravitate toward the topics of immigration, language, and race. As a result, I often use photo albums or personal anecdotes that I gather from family members to represent the challenges faced by minorities, in addition to the physical and verbal struggles of translation. The incorporation of language through text and imagery is also important to me to further contextualize these concepts, like in the piece She Told Me, which is based on the many hurdles my mom faced moving to Canada. Though in my camera work, I find that translation through subtitles or captions are also effective ways to include the language that is primarily spoken in my home and the one that I grew up with. I find that text-based themes better reflect and sometimes even resolve my thoughts and feelings about a particular topic along the way. As you may have already noticed, my work can be seen in various formats. I primarily practice in traditional mediums such as painting, drawing, and textiles, though I've also began exploring more digital mediums including photography, illustration, and video. I enjoy a combination of mediums that create an engaging installation, whether it involves contrast in scale, color, or materials. Depending on the context of the piece, an idea can take on the form of a cyanotype print to an embroidered fabric, which is usually decided earlier in the process. By intertwining various techniques and forms of visual art, I feel that the viewer can make more connections between themselves and the work itself. I try to approach some of my cultural pieces from a historical standpoint by investigating the past political climate of Nicaragua and how that affects my family today. Some of my work visually responds to this through references to news articles or old family photos from the 50s brought into a more contemporary space. The process for much of my art often begins with a particular narrative I want to portray and determining how to appropriately communicate it. And we regret to inform you, it felt fitting to place text on the back of my dad's dress shirt as an intervention of workplace environment in relation to those with lesser education. It also symbolizes the weight that is carried by immigrants who have to start from scratch because their educational skills don't transfer the same way. However, the mother-daughter braiding concept for my recent short film Woven felt intimate enough that it could only be expressed through video because I viewed it as a real-time visual portrayal of a relationship and a way to represent the yearning of childhood and a familiarity of domestic rituals. Other installations take on a more nostalgic perspective that may be depicted through household objects that carry personal significance. I find that some of my work serves to commemorate or give a rendition to these items in a contemporary way. In 88 Sheep and Counting, I've taken an old used pillowcase from my family closet and repurposed it to represent the grieving of have-beens and could-have-beens of my grandpa. This theme of reminiscing is present even in some of my collaborative work, which I took part in earlier this year through the local theater company MT Space. Vision Beyond Seeing depicts a fictional narrative of a man released from prison and is rediscovering the beauty of nature, portrayed through striking phrases on transparent mesh panels. I often try to implement a degree of labor into my artwork as a means to symbolize physical hurdles and repetition, something highly emphasized and far from finished. By using a tangible display like suspended hand-knit letters, I was able to communicate the weight of trying to bridge a generational gap in dialogue between children and their parents, especially when individual views grow apart. I reflected on many of these conversations with my own parents for this piece, as seen in English and Spanish, and the discomfort involved when discussing life choices that differ from their traditional norms. In the process, I discovered the tedious nature of knitting and how important planning and calculations were to achieve the desired appearance of each letter, much of which reminded me of those conversations mentioned earlier. Each stitch could represent a distinct obstacle, while as a whole, the installation can evoke a sense of stress and tension that has no clear resolution in sight. Over the years, I've worked towards refining my voice as an artist by using personal stories that can resonate with others, specifically those who are familiar with the struggles of immigrant families or simply hold curiosity. I feel that it is important in my own process to investigate the meaning behind certain experiences and work through them conceptually as I continue to develop my practice further. Thank you very much.